Hey, this is Bree from Studio Later. In this video, I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of how to use Squarespace. So whether you are using a Squarespace template that is within Squarespace, or you purchased a Squarespace template from me or another designer, this will show you how to edit your template as well as how to utilize some of the features that are built into Squarespace. So let's get started. You're going to have your dashboard here. Now your dashboard is going to look a little bit different than mine. I do have some pinned projects. Those are just websites that I am working on, or my own websites that I just like to keep at the very top for my business. So while you're on your dashboard, you'll see an option up here to create a website. You'll have a few options. So you can choose one of their already pre-made Squarespace templates. They have a ton of great options. You can build your own template, or you can start with a blank template. Now, if you haven't looked through any of their Squarespace templates, I'll just show you real quick. You can choose by your type. So depending on what you plan on using your website for, whether you have a store, a membership, portfolio, anything like that. You can also search them by the type of business that you have. They have quite a few different styles for you to choose from. And you also have the option to build your own template, which is nice because you can select what type of sections you need for your website. I'm going to walk you through all of the different features that they have, as well as showing you how easy it is to customize your website. So as you are in Squarespace, you'll see on the left-hand panel that you will have quite a few different options over here, as well as your settings. So at the top, you'll have your website with your pages, your styles, assets, SEO. So if you click on your pages, this is where you're going to see all of your pages that are within your website. If you started with a template that was already pre-made, or if you did the build your own template, then you will see all of your sections over here. If you started with a blank page, then you will only have your home page, and that's it. Now, if you want to add pages to your website, you have a few different options. You can either select add page, and then you can have blank page. You can choose a page layout, and you can also do certain collections. So if you want to add a shop page or anything like that, you can do that. They do have a few different page layouts. So you'll see when you click on that, you'll have just their general layouts that they have, as well as any scheduling about. You can really scroll through here and see what they have, but they do have a few different pre-made sections. So this is nice because you don't have to start from scratch if you want to add in other pages. So if you want to add in a gallery or something like that, you do have that option to select from what they offer. Also duplicate pages. So if you are starting with a template, whether you purchase a template or using one of Squarespace's free templates, you can always click on that gear icon and then you can duplicate the page right there. Again, this is a great option if you don't want to have to start from scratch and you want to just have a page that already has a few sections that you can just edit and start from there. One thing that I will mention though, if you are going to be duplicating pages, is just make sure that you're changing your page title and your URL slug accordingly. That way it just keeps everything organized. You do also have the option to delete pages. So if you don't want to have a certain page, you can always delete pages. What I recommend personally, especially if you're starting with a template that you've purchased, is to just drag the page down into your not linked. That's going to remove it from your navigation, and it won't be linked anywhere on your page as long as there's no other buttons or anything that direct to that page. Just keeps it in your website, and it makes it so that way you don't have to worry about trying to access it at a later date. If you do delete your pages, they're only going to be in your deleted section for 30 days, as you can see right here. So if you do remove pages, they only stay in your trash for 30 days and then they get permanently deleted. So that is one thing that I would recommend, is to just drag your pages down if you are starting with something that you've already paid for. You can also rearrange your pages in the main navigation. You'll see that that will reflect up in your navigation. So you can move these around however you see fit for your navigation. If we go back onto that main page, you'll see that now you can have your styles. This will open up your site styles panel. Another way that you can also get to this is by clicking on the paintbrush at the top right-hand corner. That will also open up your site styles. This is where you're going to edit things like your fonts, your colors, button styles, forms, and your miscellaneous settings as well. So if you click on your fonts, you'll be able to edit a few different things. You can choose your base size. You can change what type of heading font you have. They do source their fonts from Google and Adobe, so they do have a lot of different font options, as you can see. If you are going to be uploading a custom font, you will need to add a little bit of custom CSS. I'm hoping that they update this in the future so it's not as much of a headache for most people, but there is a way to do that. There are tons and tons of different tutorials out there of how to do that. I won't be covering that in this video. You can choose a font from their selection, and then from there you have a few different options. You can choose the weight of that font. Not every single font is going to have a weight option. You can choose the style. Again, not every single font is going to have that as an option either. You can change things like your line height, your letter spacing, whether you want it uppercase, lowercase, or capitalized. And then you'll have your heading sizes down here. So if we go to change the heading size for heading 1, you'll see that that will go ahead and make those adjustments directly onto everything that has the H1. Now, if you go back into the font settings, you'll have the same exact settings for your buttons. So you can change out what type of primary button font that you have. Same settings for that. Same goes for the secondary and then the tertiary buttons as well. Same settings apply for your paragraph. So when you are in your paragraph settings, you can go ahead and choose a different font, and then you'll still have those same styles. So you can adjust your paragraph sizes, as well as the line height and the letter spacing. You do have the option to have a miscellaneous font. Now, this comes in handy, for example, for this website. I do have some CSS that allows me to have 2 different font types within the same line of text. So I just have my miscellaneous font set to what I want it to have, which is the instrument serif. And then you can also assign styles. So this is nice because you can change what your site title is, the mobile site title, your navigation. So if you change this from your paragraph to a heading, you'll see that that will update that in the navigation. So you can go through and really customize what specific elements within the template have what specific font type. And then if we go back into the site styles, you'll see your color palette right here. So you can choose your color palette. They do have the option where they have recommended color palettes. So you can choose any of the color palettes that they have right in here. This will just apply those site styles directly to your website. You can also click to edit your color palette, and this will make some adjustments. I'll go ahead and scroll down so that way we can get a better idea how that applies the colors. So say, for example, maybe you want to change this to like a yellow color. If you make that adjustment to your color palette, that's going to change a lot of different things within the templates. Same goes for any of the other colors. So if we want to change this blue color to maybe an orange, that will make adjustments to anything that was set originally to that color. So keep in mind that any of the changes that you make to your color palette will make site-wide changes. There are ways to edit everything individually, which I will show a little bit later in this video, but just keep that in mind while you're editing your color palette. Now down here, you have a couple options. You can paste in a hex code that you already have. You also have the option to do an RGB and HSL. And then down here, you have a few different preset colors. So again, if you choose this, it will make adjustments to the website. And then you can upload your color palette directly from an image. So if you have some brand images that you would like to pull some colors from, you can go ahead and do that. And then same thing here, if you want to pull from a certain color. So say you want to have this blue color, they do give you a few options. You can do monochrome, complementary, all of that fun stuff. All right. And then down here is where your color themes are going to be. As you scroll through the website, you'll see that each section is set to a color theme. Now, this will apply to any of the sections that is set to this color theme. So again, if you make any adjustments to any of these color themes, that's going to be applied site-wide to any of the sections that have already been set to this theme. So you'll see that when you click on the pencil icon, you will be able to edit a lot of different things within that section. So this is nice because you can change things like your section background, your font colors, anything like that. And it also goes down into your button colors, menu overlays, gallery settings. There's really a lot of different things to edit within this specific setting. So if you say, for example, you set your color theme to maybe like a darker color and you want to have a lighter font color, if you want to have that applied to every single section, you can go in and just adjust your heading and paragraph colors directly within that setting. All right, so let's go back into the site styles. Now you have your buttons. So this is where you're going to be able to update all of your button settings. So they do have a few different options in there, but if you click through, you can change your primary button, secondary, and tertiary button settings. So you can choose things like the font. Again, you can choose what type of shape this is. So you can do either rectangle, a rounded rectangle, pill shape, oval, all of that fun stuff. You can also have it with no fill if that's more of your vibe. And then down here, you can choose if you want to have an outline as well as the padding. So this will just make your button bigger, smaller, just the padding around the text. And then you can also manually adjust your padding right there. You do have the option to apply that to all of your button types, but if you have certain types of buttons that look better in certain sections, I would recommend just keeping the primary, secondary, and tertiary separate just to keep a different look for each section. So they're all going to have the same exact settings as you go through, so you can mess around with that however you see fit for your design. Next, you have your form field. So you can either choose based on what they recommend for the website, or you can go in and customize everything as well. So you can have different field shapes. So you can have it be more of the rounded rectangle, or you can have the pill shape, and you'll see that applied to your contact form right there. You'll also have other options. So you can choose your border around it, the thickness of the borders. So you'll see that that will make adjustments right there. And then you can change your padding. So they do have a few different hover effects. So if you want to have it scale when they go to hover over, you can apply that. They also have the opacity. They have a couple different options for you to choose from. They also have some submit button settings as well. So you have a spinner, ellipses, bar, circle, label, all of that fun stuff. So you can really get specific with how your settings are for that. Lastly, we have the miscellaneous section. This is where you're going to add any specific animations to your website. So if you want to have things fade in, scale, slide, clip, flex, all of that stuff, you can go ahead and apply that there. You can also change the speed of how that actually animates within your website. Then you have your spacing. So this is like your page width and site margins. I don't think that you really need to mess around with this if you're just getting started, but you do have that option in there as well. And then any image block settings right here. So that's going to be it for your site styles. Let's go ahead and go back to the side panel again. So now you have your assets section. This is where you're going to upload any of your images directly into your website. There is another way to do that, which I will show you again once we actually start getting into the editor, but you can go ahead and upload everything within here. And then we're going to go into the SEO section. Now, this is a website template that I sell, so it's not going to be ranking for anything specifically. So you'll see that my completion score is pretty low, but they do give you the option to improve it with AI. So they do give you a lot of different options. I'll click on it so that way you can go ahead and get a better idea. Now, I'm kind of curious what they're going to say. I think because this is meant for coaches and an agency, they're going to go ahead and try and, make that relevant to that industry. But you can see that they have a few different options that come up, and this will show you how your website's going to appear in home pages. So they give you a few different options with some keywords to help your website rank. And then it shows you your traffic. So this will just show you how many people are going to your website. And the great thing about Squarespace is they give you so many free resources in order to help you with your website. They do have a whole SEO section down here. So they have checklists, FAQs, all of this stuff. So definitely go check out any of their resources that they have within that AI panel down there. Next up, you'll have your products and services. So if you are selling products, this is obviously a great benefit of Squarespace is they do have a built-in product and shop manager. So if you go into your products, you will have the option to either sell physical products, you can sell services, digital downloads, or gift cards. So depending on what your business is, you can go ahead and upload any of your products directly in there. So say, for example, if you're like me and you sell digital downloads, you'll just go ahead and add your download and your pop-up will come up right here. So this is where you're going to add in all of the details for your product, your images, inventory, the product itself, the download, all of that stuff. And that goes the same for whether you're selling physical or services or anything like that. It's pretty much the same exact process of adding your products. And then you'll be able to see all of your orders directly within their website panel. So you can see anything that's been fulfilled or pending, anything like that. You can set up things like discounts. So you can go ahead and add in a specific discount, whether you want a percentage off, an amount off, or if you buy one, get one free, whatever that may be. Next up, you have content and memberships. So whether you have a course or a member site or anything like that, you can just set it up directly within Squarespace. It's great to just keep everything in one place for your business. So yeah, like I said, you'll have things where you can set up your course, your videos, member sites. So if you click on any of these, say you want to set up a course, and again, we're just going to name this just Studiolitaire. This will open up with a few different options. So you have a couple different layouts. If you just select one of the layouts, it's going to apply just your site styles that you already have within your website. And then you can go ahead and choose your pricing plans and then the paywall, and then as well as upload all of your content directly in here. Again, this is not going to be a full walkthrough of how to do that because there are other videos out there that will go more in depth on how to do that. Next, you have your scheduling section. So this is great for any service-based providers, whether you do like hair or if you just have anything where you need to set up a calendar and availability. This is really awesome. They do use Acuity. So you can set up all of your stuff directly into here. You can change what type of appointment types you have, any of that. So again, I'm not going to go too in depth in that because again, there's tons and tons of other videos that will show you more in depth on how to do that. But you do have that option to set that up within Squarespace, which is really nice. And then just going through these real quick, you do have the option to do donations as well as sending different invoicing. So if you do again, another type of service-based business where you need to be sending invoices, you will have that option right there. And then you can set up email campaigns directly into Squarespace as well. So this is really nice. You don't have to use a third-party app like MailChimp or Flowdesk or anything like that. Another great thing about Squarespace is they have their analytics built in directly to their platform. So it's your traffic sources, the keywords, so you can link directly to your Google search keyword platform, as well as the geography, things like that. And then lastly, you just have your finance section. So again, if you are not selling something on your Squarespace website, this won't be relevant to you. Now, if you click on your settings down here, this is where you're going to see another range of settings. So you'll have things like your site availability. So if you are working on your website and you want to have it set for a password, you can do that. You can also make your website public or private. You'll also have things like your site languages, cookies and data privacy, your favicon, social links, all of those different settings will be in there. Your domain and email will also be editable within here. So if you have a domain that you're wanting to link, just click on your domain. You can use a domain that you already have or get a domain directly within Squarespace. And then you'll have customer notifications. So again, if you are selling something or if you just have an email set up with them, you can change your email settings directly in there. And then as you go down, you'll just see a lot of other settings in here. So your billing section will be in here. This is where you're going to start or stop your subscription. So if you have a plan set up, then you can go ahead and adjust that in there. And then you have just a few other settings. Again, I'm not going to go too in depth on that. So what you're going to do is just hit the edit button at the top left-hand corner. That's going to open you up directly into the editor. So again, as you're scrolling through, you'll see that everything is divided up into its own sections. And again, these are all set to their own color theme as we covered in the site styles. Now I'm going to go through all of the different settings of how to actually edit your website. So whether, again, you are starting with a template that you bought from someone else or you're using the free template that is within Squarespace or just starting from a blank template, I'm going to cover how to add, remove, move things around. All of that fun stuff will be covered in this section. You'll see when you're hovering over each section that this little pop-up will come up. You'll have the option to edit your section, change the layout. You can duplicate sections, save sections, or move it up and down. And then you can also remove your section. So if you click on edit section, this will give you the pop-up that shows you the rows are in your sections. If you want to have your blocks with no spaces or spaces, you can also adjust this within the settings directly right there. You can also have your section fill screen, and then you can add things like dividers. So if you add a divider to this section, you'll see right here that that will go ahead and add a divider. And then they have a few different options that you can choose. So you can go ahead and just mess around with that however you see fit. And if you do have an image set to the full background, keep in mind that that will change the way that this looks as well. My image is not set to the entire background, so that's why it's going with the colored background on this setting. If you go into background, again, I don't have a background image set to this, but you could upload an image. So you can upload it directly from your computer. You can select it if you already have your images uploaded into your assets panel, or you can choose the option to use their stock images as well. They do have a lot of great stock images. You can also upload a video if you want to have a video as your background. And then you can choose any of their art selections as well. And then lastly, you'll have your colors. So if you want to change the color of your section, you can just do so by clicking through any of the settings that you already have set up right there. And if you do want to edit anything, just click on that pencil icon and that will open up that side panel again. That will allow you to edit everything within that section. And then they do have a nice option right here where they can pre-make different layouts for you. So that is nice because if you're not super creative with your website design, then you can use some of their pre-made sections that are built in right there. And then if you want to duplicate sections, you just click duplicate and then that will add it directly below that section. If you want to save sections, you can save it to your site. And if you're also a Circle member, you can save it to your account and use that across other websites in your account, which is nice. And then if you want to rearrange any of your sections, just go ahead and move things by the arrows. You can move things up or down. So again, that's nice just to rearrange things within the website. And you'll notice that when you're hovering over, everything has its own little block around it. This is nice because this does allow you to drag and drop things anywhere within the grid. Squarespace does use a grid in order to get everything aligned, which is nice, just keeps everything nice and neat. So you can move things around and it will snap into place. Now, if you want to edit certain elements, you can click on different text. So for example, you can choose whether you want to have this set as a paragraph or heading. You can have it bold, italicized. You can change the color of your text. So say, for example, you want to have this maybe brown instead of black. You can go ahead and do that. You can also change the color of just one single word if you would like. So if you want to change that to blue, then you can do that right there. You'll also have a few other options within the text editor platform. So this will extend your text to the size of the text box. So if you go to resize this, you'll notice that that will resize your text. So this is nice because, say, for example, if you have your heading size set to a certain size within your site styles, but you want it to be a little bit bigger on your page, you can use that feature, and that will allow you to create a lot bigger text without having to go in and edit your heading or paragraph sizes separately. Then you have your underline and highlight section. So this is nice just to add some visual elements to your text boxes. So you'll see that when you click on that down arrow, you have quite a few different options right here. You can have your text be highlighted like so, and then you can change if you have the round end caps. You can have this come to front. You can also have it animate so it'll look like it's drawing, or you can have it fade in or fade and scale. So there's a few different options there, as well as how long that takes to do the animation, and then you can change the direction as well. They do have quite a few different options though. So if you want to have like an underline, or if you want to have it circled, you can go ahead and adjust that in there. Now, to edit any images within the website, just click on your image, click on that pencil icon. This will pop up with the image editor. So you can go ahead and replace your image. This will give you the option to either upload an image, select it from your library, or again, you can use the stock images. And then you have some options for the design. So if you want to change your shape, you can go ahead and choose any of the shapes that they already have within Squarespace. So this is nice because they do have quite a few different options. They also have the option to fill or fit your image as well. And then you can add a corner radius. You can also add different effects. So they have a few different like funky effects. They have parallaxes, they have like a grain effect, things like that. You can mess around with that and add different effects to your images. And then you can also add an overlay. So this is nice because if you have text that you can't read, you can always change the overlay for that image. Now, if you want to add something into a section, all you have to do is add a block. This will come up with quite a few different options. So you'll see that you can add things in like text, buttons, videos, accordion, scrolling, images, galleries, forms, newsletter. Like they have a lot of different options. You can add in products, different integrations, different search options, things like that that would be relevant to maybe on a blog or somewhere else on your website. So if you want to add in a button, for example, you can just click on the button and then you can drag that to where you need it. And then if you need to resize your sections, you can just go ahead and either drag it using the little blue arrow on the side right there, or if you go into edit section again, you can adjust how many rows you have in that section. So when you add your buttons in, you'll have a few options. You can change whether you want your primary, secondary, or tertiary styles applied to that. You can also link directly just by clicking on that link button. You can either link it to your pages that are within here. So you'll see that you'll have a few different options come up for your pages. This will just allow you to link directly into there. You can also paste a URL, file, email, phone number, all of that stuff as well. So you can also just click on the pencil icon and that will come up with the text where you can change what your button says. You can also attach your link directly in there, or you can change the settings again for how you want your button to look. Squarespace does give you the option to pin different elements within your website. So you'll see that this does have a pin section. I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like, but basically it just creates a sticky section where your text gets stuck and then all of your images and everything scroll right past. So you do have the option to add that to certain elements. So whether you want to have it for your text or your images, you just click on your pin icon and you have the option to pin it to your top, the middle, or the bottom of your page. You can also adjust your offset directly within there. And that's just nice because it'll just give you that sticky scrolling effect. Now, if you want to add in any text, you would just select the text option and then you can drag that anywhere within the page. Now, Squarespace does have an AI text option where you can actually prompt it for whatever you might need on your website. So say, for example, if you're like a hairstylist or something, you can put in something that would be relevant to your business, maybe where you're located. So let's just say Dallas, Texas hairstylist, and we'll see what it prompts us with. Again, you can really prompt this for anything, but this will give you something that is relevant to your industry. See that gave us a pretty decent paragraph. And from there, if you're not a great writer, then you can go ahead and use that feature and then adjust that however you need to. Now, you also have the option to add in sections to your website. So again, as you're scrolling through, you'll see that add section pop up. If you click on that, that will either prompt you to add a blank section, or if you have your saved sections, you can add from your saved sections directly from there. Or you can choose any of their pre-made sections as well. So maybe you need a services section. You can choose from any of their options that they have, as well as like scheduling, images, videos, all of that stuff. So you can choose what you want to have. If you want to start with any of theirs, then you can do that, or you can just go ahead and add in a blank section like so. Now, if you want to have your background image be full width, then you can go ahead and upload an image. I'll just go ahead and select one from my gallery. So we'll go ahead and upload that directly into there. Now, they will have an overlay opacity set, so you can adjust that either higher or lower. And then if you want to change the background color, maybe you want to have black, so that way it's more of like a darker overlay, then you can go ahead and edit it like that. And then you do have the option to have a full bleed or inset. So if you want to have your image not take up the full width of your section, you can go ahead and adjust that like that. And again, you'll just have those same exact settings that you had that I showed earlier. So you can go ahead and customize it like so. If you want to remove sections, you would just hit the remove section. And this is going to permanently delete it. So just make sure that if there are sections in a website template that you are using, you can go ahead and just save that directly to your site. That way, if you do need to add it on later, you can do that. You don't have to worry about deleting something and then trying to access it a little bit later. You also have the option to link your text. So if you highlight your text, you can link directly to either a page or a URL, or again, any of those settings that I had shown earlier. So if you have a file, email, or phone, you can go ahead and link those like so. And lastly, let's hop into the mobile editor. So the nice thing about Squarespace is they do give the option to edit everything on mobile just to make sure that your mobile is looking good. You guys probably know a lot of people do look at websites on their mobile device. So making sure that your mobile website is up to par is very, very important. And it's basically the same exact settings in here as well. So you can move things around. You can rearrange your sections. So if you want to move sections up and down, you have all of the same exact settings that you would have in your desktop editor as well. So one thing I always recommend doing if you are using a template or if you're just building your website from scratch is to make sure that you are checking how your mobile looks. Because again, if you're adding a lot of text and images and things like that, sometimes things can look a little bit crammed together. So just make sure that you're going in and making sure that your text and everything still looks good. And then if you want to preview your website, once you're actually done making adjustments, you can just click on that arrow that will open up the preview window. And that will allow you to scroll through, see the animations, and then this will give you a better idea of what your website's actually going to look like before you publish your website. That's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.